Starting a business is not that complicated, but there are two groups of people. The first group is the group who oversimplifies and thinks that starting a business and operating one is just registering an LLC in, I don't know, Wyoming or Delaware or California or whatever it is that they've read online. And they do it one time and then they leave it. And then there's the second group who are people who overcomplicate everything and can't decide between a corporate structure or where to set it up and are intimidated by the whole thing. Both groups are wrong. It doesn't matter the size of the business you're starting or how much money you're investing initially or what product you're selling. You could be selling candles or advanced devices or services like coaching or an advanced technology subscription or anything. Businesses are all comprised of the same elements. And the two big buckets are contracts, so they govern your relationships, and compliance. So this is compliance with all of the regulations, federal, the state you're in, and industry. The compliance one is the easy part, but it's also the complex part. This is where you'll have to comply with the legal requirements of actually running your business in your state and in your industry and the federal regulations. The simple part is they're there, the rules exist. The complicated part is deciphering them, seeing what applies to you, what exceptions applies to you, what reporting requirements are there, and actually complying, or there would be consequences to you not complying with those regulations. Usually they start when you're actually operating your business, and there's very little before when you're just in the building phase. The rest of almost everything else are governed by contracts. So let's group these relationships that are governed by contracts and talk about what you actually need in those contracts and which ones are the priority. The first group would be the owners. This is you. And if you do have partners, you need a clear contract between you and you need the company's operating agreement or the bylaws when you actually form the entity to be very clear about your ownership, your roles, and your responsibilities. For the next set of relationships, I'll just call them collaborators. Are you working with contractors, with other independently owned companies like vendors, or are you hiring people? If yes, you need to be very clear about your relationships, your roles, your responsibilities, the pay, and if it's contractors or employees, you also need to be very, very clear about the intellectual property ownership. The next one is with customers, probably the most important contract you'll ever have. These are your terms and your protections and your reputation and your company's reputation. Be very clear. A lot of business owners who are very excited at the beginning rush and count on the relationship to get their product or service out as fast as possible. And they're excited to take the money. And only think about this part when something happens like a complaint or a cancellation or a refund request or non-payment. Don't be that person. Invest in this document, whether it is your service contract or the terms and conditions with a check mark on your website. Get it right. Invest in it. The next category is intellectual property. We touched on it a little bit when I talked about contracts with collaborators, but this is a complete area of law. So if you have a name, logo, or a product that you want to protect, start the conversation early, especially if you're using services of others in developing and creating the IP. It's not always about the registration with the government. The most important stage is actually the creation phase to make sure you have ownership or can have ownership of the thing that's being created. The next big group that I want to talk about that sounds really scary to most people is taxes. Basically, your relationship with the government. Yes, this falls under compliance work that I mentioned first, but tax planning and tax consequences is also woven through all of your contractual relationships as well as entity formation. So you always want to have this point top of mind, no matter what you're doing or what decision you're making. I've helped hundreds of people launch or operate their businesses. I've seen people who overcomplicate and spend way too much on legal way too early, and the cost of those who don't prioritize it at all and eat the cost later on. I've created these super simple checklists for creative entrepreneurs and founders with 4 simple stages it takes to get your dream business off the ground, and exactly where in those stages you want to think about and plan for the business's legal needs. You can find the links to the checklist down below or in my bio. If you have a great idea, don't be afraid of entrepreneurship. Just give it a try, but be really conservative in your approach and your spending and just see how it goes. You never know if you don't try.